Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, and this is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. Now, as you can see, as some of you that have been watching this this show or something, I'm still trying to figure out what this is. But this show, I've made some changes, so hopefully we can figure out, if this is the better way to do it, and to kind of go from there. But I'm one of those people that feel that I can just tweak things and make things better. I'll just tweak away, and then I'll just leave it alone, and go from there. But the conversation that we're going to have today is around the word relationship. And so that comes up a lot for me in, not just people, but, my stuff. What's my relationship to my stuff? And this conversation that we're having, online here is really about my relationship to words or to language. And the more that I embrace that, the more that I am able to really connect with people on a level that makes a difference. So I want to invite my friend in, and we'll have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I am good. Right before this, I had a conversation with two of my very dear friends who I haven't talked to together in a while.
Right.
So I'm feeling tender from talking to them.
Oh boy. So in the so before we get started, I want you to introduce yourself, how it feels comfortable for you.
Yeah, so I'm Jillian Richardson. Hi, Internet. I'm the founder of a newsletter called The Joy List, which is a weekly newsletter of events that you can go to by yourself and leave with a new friend. And this newsletter, originally for almost 4 years now, has been for New York City events. And because of coronavirus and our inability to gather in person, now the newsletter features 2 virtual events for every day of the week where you can deeply connect with yourself and other people.
Oh, wow. That's great. So how does relationship land for you?
So relationship for me right now, I've been running this program for women called 4 Weeks to Find Your People. And each week we talk about a different level of relationship. And designing the program was so fun and challenging for me because the ultimate goal of this program is you feel a deeper sense of belonging with yourself and with other people and your community at large. And so for me, the 4 levels of relationship that I decided to focus on were, first and most importantly, relationship with self.
Right.
How comfortable are you in your own skin? How much love are you giving to yourself? Because what I've seen in my own experience and with other people is just no matter how many amazing, incredible people you're around, if you do not feel like you deserve that love,
Right.
you're never going to feel like you belong. So that is the most important, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have been on that self-discovery journey, and that's a big part of my labels conversation is the awareness of self, to really just really embrace that and not diminish that, so you can have the relationships that you want, and it has to start with the relationship that you have with yourself, right? Like, so I really
Completely.
get that. So what was the other area?
Oh, so it's 1, relationship to self.
Right.
2 is deepening your current relationships.
Okay.
Because a lot of people I've seen, they say, oh, I don't have enough friends.
Right.
And there's a statistic that says 75% of Americans are not satisfied with their friendships.
Wow.
And I don't have research to back this up, but from conversations I've had with people, hearing that they actually do have connections in their life. They
Right.
just don't have the skills to turn those into the deep relationships that they want. And so that week is more, how do you listen to people? How do you know what your boundaries are? How do you know
Right.
what you want in relationship? What kind of relationship do you even want to have?
Right.
Because you might have someone sitting in front of you who's really longing for a deep and meaningful conversation that's emotional, maybe spiritual, and you just don't know until you try and go there with that person. And that's
Right.
a skill that there's people have a lot of shame that they don't know how to have these conversations.
Wow. It is, it's the part of the disconnect to connect conversation is the self conversation, is the social conversation, is that our relationship to other people, right?
Mhm.
And the other thing is our relationship to work, to our work and to what we want to do. And I can totally get it because I use the language around labels, right? So it's like
Mm.
the friend label. Now, the friend label is interesting, for me. One, because that friend will show up how my understanding of what a friend is, and if their understanding of what a friend is different or not in line, then I'll be a part of that 75%. Yeah, I'm not happy with this friend,
Mhm.
type of thing. And the only ways that we can get closer to our happiness or closer to what our idea or be open for a new idea or a new level of that is through conversation, is to say, hey, this is this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is where I'm growing, or this is where I'm moving. And to have the humans around you make those adjustments and make those moves too. And
Mhm.
that really develops the relationship, that strengthens the relationship, that strengthens um, the belonging that you have, because you really, I think for me, I'll say for myself, the biggest story that I've said is that nobody understands me, nobody gets me, and all that other kind of stuff. And I've had friends and people tell me that's not the truth. Where are you getting that from?
Mhm.
And it's because it's like all in my head because of my relationship with my thoughts, my beliefs, that were keeping me from the relationship with other people. Have you ever
Mm.
found yourself in that spiral of what's real and imagined around your relationships?
Well, so what I'm hearing you say is that because was it that you struggled to kind of communicate what was going on in your head with the people who were in front of you, and so
Right.
it felt like, oh, they don't really get me because they
Right.
don't know what's happening up here? Is that
Right.
it?
Right. There's an expectation to have them get it, almost mind read, but not really, right?
Mhm. I think for me, I haven't struggled as much with that as having different desired levels of emotional intimacy. I
Hmm.
think for me, the struggle has been this person who is in front of me does not necessarily want to talk about what's going on in their emotional world and what they're
Right.
struggling with. And they
Got it.
might not even have the self awareness to really get into that conversation.
Right.
For me, that shows up a lot with family members, is just like, you don't want to have that type of conversation. And for
Right.
so long, there's this tension that I felt like, why won't
Right.
you do this with me? Why won't
Right.
you have this type of conversation with me?
Right.
When really it's not their preferred style of communication. And I can't expect everyone in my life to
Right.
want to go that deep all the time. It's just not fair.
Right. And do you think that the label of the relationship cause you to want more? I mean, it's like because they were family,
Mm,
you should know me. You should, want to, know me more, and all that.
that's a
Is
really good question. I think that's true. Yeah. Like the like, oh, you're my mom, and so we should have this type of relationship. Or like, you're my
Right.
dad, we should have, you're my sister.
Right.
That's been one of the biggest struggles in my life, if I'm being honest, is this, okay, we're blood relations, and so like you should know
Right.
me better than anyone in the world.
Right.
And for me, that's not the case. And no surprise, that's why I'm obsessed with friendship and connection and all
Right.
these things, is because I had to learn how to get that in other places. And
Right.
that's true for so many people.
Right. And I mentioned before, our talk here, and I think I did on another show, is that, just having these conversations like this, I realize that I really enjoy this. This really lights me up to speak on this level. And my wife doesn't, it's just like every once in a while, it's like, okay, that's pretty deep. Thank you very much. And just let's keep it moving. But and when I wasn't getting it, there was a time where I was like, she doesn't understand me, is this right? And I was just making it mean so much more until I finally got to, a place where I can't expect her to have these conversations with me daily. I can't, I can't, it's basically, it's causing suffering in me, and it's causing suffering in her, and our relationship. And so really being able to let that go freed me up to even consider, having this platform to speak with my friends and speak on this level. And it's just really being okay with, I guess, shifting my relationship with it and kind of, or expanding it. Yesterday I talked about grace, and I talked about a lot of other, things, extending that grace to other people. So we can show up fully. And I just kind of, just go from there. I think someone, my wife was just telling me, I don't think it's on your page, so yeah, so I just got distracted for a while, but the more that I'm able to just not hold my relationships to the standard that I currently have, the more I could live into my relationships, the more I can be present to the relationships that I have, instead of the expectation of it.
Sounds like you're working on accepting your relationships as they are and finding new relationships to meet these needs that you realized you have.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it is, especially in my business relationship and partners, and, it's like, for me, going to like networking events and some gatherings, it's just like, I know I got to do this, but I hate these. I just these are
understandable.
Because instead of really, in my mind, trying to get to know each other, there's just this formulaic way of connecting, or kind of talking. This is what I do. This is what, can you help me? You can't, or just kind of move on next. And it's just like, wait, what? There's like more. It's not in my 30-second speech, but there's more about me than this. And there's just, and it's like, that's how I saw so many of my relationships, or my business, potential, business relationships. And it just really limited my desire to put myself out there, to just kind of do that, because it didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like I really am getting to know people. And do you think that, I guess, when you're creating these gatherings, and when you're, is this, that business label or that work label, do people have to let that go to order to kind of experience the event? Or
Mm. Well, it sounds like in these networking events, you weren't feeling connected, and
Right.
it was very quick. It felt very transactional.
Right.
And I totally understand that as someone who I am energized by intimate conversations like this, where we're really curious about each other, we're really present. And in so many events in general, networking or otherwise, that's not the case. There's no intention of
Right.
the space. And so we're just in a room packed with people. It's so much unfocused energy floating around, and it feels very frenetic.
Right.
And for me, I've been in some really beautiful, heartfelt business spaces. And the difference is that people know why they're there
Hmm.
and expectations have been set. Like, for example, there's this man, David Homan, who runs really beautiful networking events in New York City. And the reason why they're so great is because you're there and you're more curious about the other person than you want to talk about yourself.
Right.
And you promise that you're going to connect that person to other people who can help them out. And
Right.
there's just a really big focus on paying it forwards. And
Right.
you know that the people who are there have been brought together for a reason,
Right.
even if just that reason is these are the type of people who really enjoy helping others. And
Right.
there's that sense of like, oh, I don't have to be so impressive. And I can take the attention off of myself and
Right.
put it on this other person, which just, that's a tip I give to anyone who has a lot of social anxiety, because we all have some degree of social anxiety because we're human,
Right.
is how can I be curious about this person in front of me instead of worrying about what I'm going to say next so that I sound cool?
Right. Yeah. I guess what came up for me, and you can help me if I'm like hearing this wrong, is that within our relationships, there is an intentionality. There is, if we want a deeper level or intimate level of relationship, there's an intention. You have to, I guess, own it, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of set it, or it's like hit or miss. It is, or it's just, driven by expectations and shoulds,
Yeah.
and that was something that I guess I've tried to resist. There's a friend of mine, David Noor, who wrote a book a number of years ago called Relationship Economics, and and I um, when I first talked to him, I was like, yeah, I don't like that, right? Because
Yeah. I
right,
have resistance to that title
right.
too.
It's like it just feels, it doesn't feel right. But what he was trying to say, and it's in a business context, but I think what I got out of him explaining to me, and after reading the book, it was more about there is an economy in our relationships. There is a value, and the more that we recognize and kind of nurture and put things, put things in it, they become, wealthy, so using those, business words or something to kind of help understand that. But it was really looking at your your friends or the people in your life that you have invested the most or have invested in you, and kind of really making sure that it's, that there's not a hole in the bucket or something. I don't know. I'm trying to stay in there, and that was, like I said, other than the title, really trying to look at my relationships, or look at um, how I how I relate to people, and recognize that sometimes when I don't feel as close or connected to people, it's because of my lack, lack of involvement or attention, or or just really care about that relationship. And that was hard for me to, I guess, to recognize for myself and kind of
Mhm.
deal with.
Has there been anything that's helped you feel more connected when you're in conversation with people?
I I think that I think energy there. What it just kind of, it's really kind of vibe. I mean, we've met within a community of, Camp GLP,
Mm-hmm.
and that was, for me, one of the few times when, even if I didn't, know the person's name, or or know anything else about them, just the energy of the space, the gathering that was created, set me up to have a conversation, even if it was just a hug. you, you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time that I've experienced a hug as a conversation versus
Mm,
just just a welcome, or kind of hi, bye, or
yeah.
whatever, everything like that. And so I felt that, because, of the energy of the place, the environment, and I think that's why, I think, it's to go back to my networking, analogies, or the ones that I've been to. I walk in, and the energy that I feel is just totally different. It is just,
Yeah. I'm like,
and right. And so it's like, okay, but go anyway, go, give me your card,
mm-hmm.
do all that kind of stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, nope, and I think the more that I am open, and, I can go back to my relationship with my wife, the more that I read the room, and just kind of be with that, I can connect to her. I can
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation. And I think most of the times when I choose not, for whatever reasons, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I don't want to be bothered, um, I force the issue, I force things on the relationship or the interaction, that
Mm.
then create problems, within it, or causes things that I have to clean up later. So I think, really, what I have started to, really embrace and acknowledge, that I can feel a room. I can feel people's presence, or if the people want to, like, engage, or
Mm-hmm.
something, and how I, without getting too woo woo or something, how I
I mean, I'm
can,
here for the woo.
right, how I can say, to them, without saying that, what's going on, or,
Mm-hmm.
or something, or how, or how can we, is it possible, to, the conversation, to go from there. And I think sometimes, I'll use my adult label. Sometimes, as an adult, we feel that there's certain conversations we don't have. You know,
Mm.
you know, for me, I I ask more children how they're doing, how they're feeling. I'm more care of younger people than adults. Adults show up how they show up. Deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the most part, I am not inclined to ask you how you're feeling. What, it seems like you're off right now, or anything like that. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, as an adult, sometimes I feel that we need to have all our shit together. Right? It's
Mm.
like, fix your face, or do, or, put the mask on, whatever the case may be, get in the right space so I can communicate with you. And so,
Mm.
um, so really recognizing when I feel that somebody is not, you know, up to having a conversation, or connecting with me, or being in relationship with me, um, I just kind of, accept that, and just kind of keep it moving, type of
Mm.
thing, instead of just create it. I hope that makes sense, but it's
Well, so what I'm hearing you say is that kind of like when you talk to younger kids, you say like,
right,
"Oh, how are you feeling?" Because you feel this sense of care for them,
right,
and you're I'm curious if this is true, because this is what I feel, is that when I ask a little kid how they're feeling, they're more likely to be honest because they haven't had
Right.
that societal pressure to like say you're fine, and she'll be
Right.
like, I'm angry, or like I'm
Right.
hungry, or whatever.
Right.
Does that feel true for you? That like you
Right.
like asking little
Absolutely.
kids because they're real with how they're actually
Right.
doing.
They'll tell me, right, and then I can
Mhm.
deal with whatever they tell me. Right. Absolutely.
Totally. And then like with adults, is it that if they're not in a positive headspace, it's like, oh, we can't really have a conversation?
Right. Yeah, this
Mm.
is not the place. This is not the time. I need to get my stuff together so I can even act like
Mm-hmm.
as if everything is fine. And so be,
Interesting.
because I operate in that mode myself, I
The
kind of
mode
like,
being like, I can only talk to you if everything is fine, or if I seem like I'm
right.
fine.
Right. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
give me a moment so I can, I don't know why I was going to say fix my makeup, but that's, but I don't wear makeup, but
You're
it's
like,
like the
Jillian, your
same,
lipstick's a
the same
mess.
thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. And I think that keeps me really from connecting with people on a level to
Yeah.
really being human and accepting that, hey, you know look like someone, you look like you had a really hard day or something's
Mm-hmm.
really going on right that, and just kind of having that level of empathy or care or concern, and that it may lead into, getting back to networking, it may lead into business or not. It may
Mm-hmm.
just be a human connection that is needed at that moment. And I think too often for me um, in the past and different opportunities, that I make a decision. I don't want to say not to be human, but not to accept someone's when their humanity shows up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
I'm at a networking event, or I'm here to quote unquote do this. This
Mm-hmm.
is the thing. And so I miss those opportunities to connect,
Mm-hmm.
to relate, to all of those things that will, produce something.
Mm. Well, when you're in a headspace of like, I'm not feeling so hot, what do you wish someone would do for you?
Ask me. What's going on, man? Right.
Uh-huh.
It is just, I, it's, yeah, it is really just kind of really, I don't want to say call me on my shit, but just kind of say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing, I see, you know, you're, but I think for me, the story that I have, that I have mastered my hiding so long, so, and I've
Mm.
done it so well that
Mm.
people don't see. And I'm like shocked when people, say, oh, I see that, you're feeling this certain way, or, or things. So really, if I'm not ready to admit it to myself, or really deal with it on a level like you were talking about before, how you relate to yourself, um, I don't want anybody else, especially someone that I don't know, um, to kind of, inquire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes that's not appropriate.
right,
Like, I think it
right,
makes sense to me that a if you're talking about like a standard business networking event,
right,
it does seem unusual to me if someone who you'd never met before would be like, "Hey, man, I might be wrong, but it seems like you're having a hard day. Like, what's up?"
right.
That it feels like it's almost violating a boundary because
Hmm,
that's not, at least that's not my expectation of a networking space. I am not
right,
expecting to come into this space and have someone commenting on my emotions.
right,
I would be very, and I'm someone who loves deep emotional conversations, but I would be
right,
very surprised in a space like that.
Right.
And I would feel like it was inappropriate. But if it was someone who I knew, if that was our rapport,
right,
I would love to have that conversation. So I think context and like emotional boundaries are also very important with this.
Right. And so there's another thing about relationships. So there is, I guess there's a journey, there's a relating, and then there's a journey, I guess the ship part, right? There is a journey that needs to happen, how you relate to a person. There's a series, I don't know if it's a series of, of trusting, or, maybe it's context or anything like that. But it's really, I think that the one thing that I didn't consider was the appropriateness. I think there are certain things I believe, and I've said it to in my coaching, and I've said it to other people that I've met, that the best time to give somebody advice is when they ask for it, right? So I mean, it's like, other than that, you can keep it to yourself, right? And it is, so for me, I recognize that whatever my opinion, my advice, or anything, I need permission to kind of to do that. So there is an appropriateness to that. But at the same time, there have been real deepened relationships that I've developed over time, that have started with, an abrasive, it's like inappropriate, what the hell, right? And it's like, it kind of like startled me in. But then it kind of softened me to the point that, hey, I remember the last time we met and all that other kind of stuff, and we kind of, you kind of break down what that was all about. So I understand the appropriateness of things, but in the inappropriateness of things. But sometimes it takes for us to really get access to some of the, I guess, the relationships in our life. I don't know. It may happen within that space of inappropriate. I don't know. Am I
I'm
wishful
thinking? Can you
thinking,
give me
right?
an example? When you say someone saying like, what the hell, is it like the last time you met, you had done something that upset them and they told you? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I the thing that came up is this was in college, actually, because I was just thinking about a college friend earlier, where this person was kind of watching me, and so this doesn't sound creepy or anything like that.
They were lurking in the bushes.
Right, they're looking. I was a theater major, so I was always on stage. So I had to recognize very quickly that there were people who related to me that I had no awareness of. And so they saw me on stage, they saw me walking through the hall, they saw me in class, and would not talk to me. And so in that way, so that's the context. So I'm just kind of going away, around, the campus, in the quad, right? And she came up to me and it's like, I think you're a phony. It's like, what? It's like you're just not real. You're just you're too good to be true, and you're just trying to like just prove this to the people. And I was like, I don't even know who you are. It's like, what are you talking about? And it caused within me to kind of like, okay, how am I showing up? am I doing something? I mean, I didn't have that conversation with her at the time, but it caused me to just kind of like, look, how am I showing up? What is this? Is this true? And I have no awareness of this and all that other kind of stuff. And so the next time that I saw this person and I would say, yeah, it's like, oh, is this phony? Then it became a joke, and then it became a conversation. And we've been friends for, a long time after that. And so it is for me, I could have just called her all kind of names that were going through my head and just moved on, right? And I think too often that's what I do. But in that time, I think I would have missed, even though that is one, outlier, situation, but I would have missed a friendship over 30 years if I would have made different choices. So that's kind of what I was speaking to.
That is so fascinating. I'm curious. I imagine there must have been a part of you that when she said you're a phony,
Right.
I'm imagining there's a part of you that agreed with her.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is what led to you having that conversation. Because I imagine if you completely disagreed, this is the thing my therapist tells me all the time of like,
Right.
if something gets in my head,
Right.
she's like, well, if you really didn't believe that about yourself, you wouldn't be thinking about it. You would just laugh.
Right.
So I imagine if she had said something to you that you thought was completely ridiculous,
Right.
you would have just brushed it off and maybe you wouldn't have had that deeper conversation.
Right.
It sounds like she was kind of the impetus for a lot of self-reflection and
Right.
was game to talk to you about it as well.
Right. And it's like, so is there, there was a post that I did the other day that, some lessons, you don't need to learn in a storm. So, and I focused on the sum, because too often how my life was showing up for me is that I had to wait until the wheels fell off, or some traumatic thing for me to learn something. Like, it's like, okay, what's the lesson in this? Right? Type of thing. And so, sometimes that's how my relationships were. That's how, there had to be a fight. There wasn't an ease. If someone came up to me and say, "Hey, I think you're cute, and let's just have a conversation," it's like, okay, what's she up to, right? I mean, it's like it can't be that easy, right? I mean, it's that type of thing. And like I said, that was something that I was dealing with. But I think sometimes within our relationship, at least for me, there is this there's this feeling that there needs to be this rub. There really needs to be this challenging thing, or it's not worth it. It's not the investment type of thing. I don't know.
Oh, so I'm hearing the belief is like, if there's not a challenge in this relationship, it's
Right.
not worth it. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Huh.
It's like it's so look for, almost find a way to piss you off so we can see if this is, if this has the staying power or something.
Wow.
It's some of the odd things of that way. Look, when I look at, my relationships to words, I challenge them. I don't just say this is what relationship means and say that's it. I challenge. Well, okay, relationship can mean this. It's like I just always look for the more, the beyond, the all that other kind of stuff. And I've realized that I do that in a lot of things, in some cases unnecessarily. And it causes suffering. It causes discord for no reason. Yes, there is some gold that sometimes comes out of it, and some, long-term lasting, friendships and a deeper understanding. But sometimes it's just I'm doing it, because I can,
Hmm.
and that's it, and that doesn't feel good.
Mm. Yeah, I was surprised to hear you say that you're still friends with this person. I was like, that person said that. I don't know. If someone came up to me and just accused me of something, I'd be like, who the hell are you? Like,
Right.
get out of my
Right.
face.
It's and I really, until you said that, there was something about myself that felt that was the case. I never like considered that. It was just like, it is, I give too much credit to things, and I also at the same time assign too much blame.
Mm,
And so on my journey, of discovery of myself, is that there is a balance in it.
mm,
So it's, if something that goes well, it is like, okay, this is what I did to kind of have this happen. Or if this happened, and it doesn't go as well, it's like, I don't blame myself to the kill. It's like, okay, the more that I embrace that things just happen, and I give them reason, or I give them, I make meaning of them, then I can, decide or make choices to stay with that. And so for me, I even though that was an abrasive beginning in that relationship, that wasn't, the abrasiveness or the inappropriateness or whatever words that I use. um, I made the decision that I wasn't going to let that define our interaction.
hmm
And I think, and I, like I said, I don't know why, and I don't, and what, and sometimes I will. I'm one of those people who, who you don't have to, say, hey, we're going to boycott this. All I have to do, if somebody will do me wrong or someone will do something that is out of bounds, it's the saying, like, you're dead to me, right? It just like falls off of my radar. And it's
Meaning like
like
the person falls off of your
like
radar?
like a person or a thing or
Mm,
something. It's just, I don't know if it's just a protection type of, mechanism that I have, that it's like, okay, off, and they're just gone. And I just really, um I really don't, I really haven't found why that is the case. But I know that in order for me to stay in relationship with someone, there's a series of choices. And like you were saying before, the intentions. There has to be a clear, I'm not going to let this define our relationship. I'm not going to, even if we never talk again, I am going to speak well of this person. I
yeah.
am, I is that is something that I at times um, make the choices about. And so I I don't know. And I think, like I said, until you said that, I didn't like realize that I do that a lot. And there's probably, if I look at some of my relationships, probably many of them started off inappropriately, I guess.
Hmm.
So, what does that say? I don't know.
Like, I don't
No,
know.
I know that we can talk for hours, and I apologize if I sometimes I feel like I was talking a little bit more than you. It's like, was this a conversation or therapy session? I don't know. Right?
I love
um,
asking people questions about
right,
themselves. That's for
right,
sure.
right. But is there any last thoughts that you have, or anything that you would like to share?
I think a thing that I always try and emphasize is that learning how to be closer to people is a skill, and that a lot of people have this voice in their head that they should know how to connect and they should know how to have deeper relationships.
Mhm.
But friendships in any relationship, it's like a romantic relationship. There's some skill building that is required to have the relationships that you really want. And
Right,
so I just really recommend that people invest in learning how to be a good listener, conflict resolution,
right,
therapy, all
right,
these beautiful tools.
right,
And also, if there's any ladies in the audience, I have a program for women that helps them learn these skills as well. And it's just, I teach it because it's what I needed in my own life.
right. And so no, so there's your site that people can go to, and you said that there is a couple of virtual sites, events a day, or
Yeah, two
more.
events
Okay.
every day of the week in the
Oh,
Joy
wow.
List, which is my newsletter. Yes.
Right.
So that's the link on the bottom.
The link on the bottom and everything like that. So, well, this has been great. It's like for me, I realized that I create, I fall down a lot of rabbit holes. And a couple months ago, I said, I think I'm the rabbit, it's like I'm creating all these holes for myself, and then I
Mm,
go down in them. But this really, I am going to be sitting with, relationship today, and just kind of taking a look at um, the relationship that I have with myself, and the relationship that I have with others, and
yeah.
just realizing and recognizing for me that I, th- I think there is a flow to it, but there is work, and a lot of people don't, and sometimes we have this unhealthy relationship with work. But all work is just things that we do to accomplish something, right? Right, and
Hmm.
it's like, and be willing to do the things, if it's therapy, if it's reading, if it's whatever that it needs to be to strengthen our relationships. Um, it can be done. And thank you exactly for your work. I wanted you to mention your book before
Yes.
you left, because I think it's incredible, especially during a time like this.
Yeah, thank you. So the book is called Unlonely Planet, and essentially it's a guide for how to make friends. And the subtitle is How Healthy Congregations Can Change Your Life. And I originally wrote it being a young person who's not part of organized religion,
Mm.
and learning how I can build my own community of friends, which I call a healthy congregation, that can still help me feel really deeply rooted in my community in a way that I have not necessarily found as easily in organized religion.
Okay. No, that's great. So, and they can get that
On
on
the
your web,
Amazon.
on the
Unfortunately, that's
Amazon.
the only place right now.
Right.
Sorry, Amazon haters.
Right, right. So on the Amazon, and just and
Mhm.
people can connect with you on
Yes.
all the social medias,
Mhm.
as the old people say, on the internets, right?
On the internet.
That's right. And just go from there. This has been great. I would love for you to take a moment, if you can, to sit in the green room for a moment while I end the show.
All right, beautiful.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I hope that was interesting and exciting, and you got something for yourself. I didn't realize for myself some patterns that I have around relationships, and so I will definitely be looking at that. I really want to embrace, one of my core values of being curious, but not letting that curiosity turn into challenging, or turn into kind of the fight to to connections, or or to disconnections, and all that. But this has been great. I really appreciate conversations like this. So the world is a really, I don't know what I was going to say there. But the it's a crazy place right now, and I'm just really trying to make sense of it. But the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.